focus on, what you're looking like and focus on your audience. You can't know what to do with your hands or be thinking about, is Keith getting this or not, if I'm trying to think about, what am I going to say next? In fact, I wrote a little speaking skills book a couple years back, interviewed 20, 30 professional speaking coaches. Some of these guys and gals coach presidents of the United States, CEOs. Number one tip amongst all of them was to know your content top to bottom. They said memorize your content top to bottom. Now, coming from my student organization, that's how we did presentations. We memorize them top to bottom. I hear a lot of refuting about memorizing because, we don't want it to sound robotic when we're giving our presentation. We want to be natural. Guys, memorizing your content does not lead to robotic delivery. Robotic delivery of memorized content leads to robotic delivery. Does that make sense? Think about your favorite singer. They've probably sung that song a million times, but the emotion that they put into it is so raw, it seems like it's their first time. Think about your favorite actors. They have that content entirely memorized, but they're delivered in a way that's just so natural. Natural comes from practice. Natural comes from practice, without a doubt. Here's 4 simple things. Number 1, eye contact. We call it 5-second connections. 5-second connections. So write 5-second connections above the line going to Shaniqua's eyes. 5-second connections means that you want to, and some of you are really going to need practice on this, you got to look people directly in the eye, hold a little bit, and then move on to someone else. Now, you're not counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, switch, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, do that, and then there will be some freaked out people in the room. But I see a lot of presenters that are, rather novice, just getting started, that either from coaching, and there is coaching out there that says this, or because they're fearful, they'll stare at the back of the wall, or they'll be looking up, or they'll just be skimming, like the audience is the internet. We don't read the internet, we skim the internet, right? And there's some coaching out there. You may have been in some type of class where they say, stare at their forehead, or look at the back of the wall, because they're coaching you to average, because they know that looking people in the eye can be nerve-wracking, because people live behind their eyes. But I'm not talking to his forehead. He's got a forehead. This is good. You've got to have something between your hair and your eyebrows. But he is behind his eyes, so I'm looking at him directly. But then I'm moving on to someone else. And here's a little deeper trick for you, is that you're going to find some people that are really good listeners. They just know how to be in an audience. And you're going to keep going back to those people, and they're going to be fueling you. So even if you do get nervous about giving presentations, this is actually a technique that will help you to calm you up in front. Because there's going to be people who are great listeners. Some of you are great listeners. You know to maintain eye contact, to take notes, to laugh at the silly jokes. You are really good being an audience member. You're going to have those same type of people. Even in a high school group, there's going to be folks who are really good listeners. There are going to be ones that you will want to find the diesel in the match, right? And there's certain strategies for them as well. The second line goes to the smile, which actually is about the word variety. And this is variety with pace, tone, and volume. Now the other thing to write down there is you do want to be smiling. You're going to be nervous. Butterflies are not only going to be in your stomach, but eating your stomach lining. And you've got to force yourself to smile. If you look like you're having a good time enjoying yourself, then again, you're going to be encouraging the audience to do the same. But the big tip here is about variety. If you think about the most boring presenter you can think of, they probably do not have variety. They have the same monotone voice. They never get really funny or really serious or really emotional, and they speak at the exact same pace the entire time. Variety is how you can put, just interestingness into your presentation. But again, if you're only focusing on what am I going to say, you can't focus on this. You can't put real, true, human verbalization into your speaking, which makes it sound totally robotic, totally memorized, and totally blah. Right? You cannot be blah. You can be blah, 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 but you cannot be blah. Right? So variety. Variety in pace, fast, slow. Variety in tone, you're serious, you're humorous, whatever. And variety in volume. Particularly if you want to really emphasize. If you really want to emphasize, use variety. You listen to any really good speaker right before they say something really important or right after they say something really important. They'll put it in a short pause. Now, I put in a short pause, and 3 people looked at me. You were wondering 2 things. Is he dead? What's going on? So you can really emphasize with variety. Once you draw a box on your personal Shaniqua there, somewhere just in her middle area, and this is the tip here is called play in the box, which means your hands need to be in this box the majority of the time. So if you ever gone Talladega Nights on it, you're like, what do I do with my hands? This is where your hands should be the majority of the time. Why? Because this is what human beings do. If you have a belly button, you talk with your hands, okay? And some of you are checking, you have a belly button. Okay? So play in the box. You can drop your hands to your side from time to time, that's fine. Never in your pocket, never behind your back, never in front of you. These are all very, visual demonstrations that you're either too casual or too nervous or you're hiding a gun or something. All very bad things. You just walk down the street watching people talk, they are using their hands. And you want to use your hands. Sometimes you're going to be like, I don't know really what to do because you're thinking about them. You just got to let them go, whatever you're saying. Sometimes they're going to, be a pause in the box, but it's not a pine box. You're not dead. Okay? Your hands are not married. They're not grabbing each other. They're not barely even dating. Okay? It's almost like they're standing in line at Walmart. Okay? Sometimes they may brush up against each other. They're not going to stay there very long. They need to be fluid. They need to be using, going along with the emphasis and the ebbs and flows of your speech pattern. Question.
Okay, when I speak, I find myself always, I'm not thinking about it, but I always find myself playing with something. Whether it's a pen or
set it down.
Yeah. How do you stop that? Because then I'll start
set it down.
Playing with my hands though.
Then you just got to keep your hands away from each other. You got to be your own parent,
Started this a lot.
Know what I'm saying? So if you're always playing with something, you got to set it down. If that's something that's attached to you, cut it off.
You called it.
Go hairless if you have to, right? A good strategy is never get a new ring. You're gonna get your new class ring. But check out my ring. Awesome. When I first got married, 4 days after we got married, I gave a speech and I was doing this the entire time because I just never wear a ring, and that was something that I had to overcome. Or if I wear glasses instead of my contacts, I'll be doing this a lot. But those are habits that you just have to be cognizant that it's distracting, and you just have to work towards overcoming it. It's a habit that you've developed. It's a habit that you have to undevelop, right? So there's really no magic bullet other than wearing mittens. So play in the box. Then the last strategy, we're gonna have about 10 minutes to play around with these, is called concrete shoes, and that's the one down to the feet. Seriously,
in the shoes.
Concrete shoes is simply a reminder that your feet, matter of fact, the entire bottom half of your body needs to be very quiet. My style is very physical, moving around a lot, but whenever I'm stopping, like now, there's nothing going on down there. It's very, very quiet, very silent. Because you're going to be nervous, which is natural. You want to be nervous. Please do not ever try to not be nervous. That's called being a college professor, and everyone's going to they'd rather be watching grass die than watch you speak. Right? If you watch it grow, you're like, hey, lunch, right? But if you watch it die, that's just depressing. So you want to be nervous, but it's a controlled nerves. And you can actually control your nerves, number one, by knowing what you're going to say, top to bottom. But also by keeping your feet quiet, getting variety in your voice. So just talking fast all the time. The reason why you're talking fast is because you're really, really nervous. You're just pouring out of your mouth. Right? You're going to be dancing with stars, and there ain't no stars, right? So keep your feet, when you stop, keep your feet very quiet. Now this is, we're going to practice. This should not be a problem because you're not going to have a whole lot of room to move. Okay? But these are 4 basic strategies. The entire evening session probably is going to be more about this, as well as how to do a lot of the strategies that we're doing in this room. But let's have some fun with this first. Team leaders, as quickly as possible. Gather up all of the books, all the pens, nice, neat stack, take it back to your table, and then actually, team leaders, you can take your chair back to your table as well.